It was about 20 years ago that Mark Prensky coined a term that we've been struggling to free ourselves from ever since. Watching young people use digital devices, Prensky called them digital natives. Their parents, their grandparents, people with graying hair such as myself, people who fumbled uploading a photo to Facebook. We were known as digital immigrants, people who used devices with a kind of awkwardness that immediately outed us as foreigners. Now, no one would deny that kids today operate devices with an incredible fluidity almost from birth, but we've made an inferential error. We've assumed that because students know how to operate devices, they also know how to vet the information that these devices produce. When we actually test this assumption, we find the opposite to be true. Gen Z is as susceptible to misinformation as the rest of us. Last month, my research team released a study that we did at a large East Coast university where we asked 263 sophomores, juniors, and seniors to assess a variety of different websites. So this is a site called minimumwage.com, and it lists its parent site, a group called the Employment Policies Institute. Students had 12 minutes to do whatever they wanted to do in order to test the reliability of the site. They could stay on it, they could leave it, they could, I don't know, watch cat videos on YouTube, whatever they wanted to do. We gave them 12 minutes, but we told them at the end they would be asked to come up with a judgment about whether this was an objective site in learning about the nuances of minimum wage policy. Now, when students actually put a few simple words into their browser, like the name of the organization and a keyword like funding, this is what they came up with. They learned that it was there's an actual answer, a quick internet search that shows the institute is run by a restaurant industry lobbyist who has a vested interest in not having the minimum wage increased. The problem is that such answers were rare. The vast majority of students, 9 out of 10, remained clueless about who was behind this site. And more concerning was that 85% of the students, given 12 minutes to do whatever they wanted on the open internet, never left the target site. Now, it's not that these students lacked strategies. The problem is that the strategies that they deployed to come up with judgments about web credibility were the very ones that we've taught them to use. In education, the way that we've taught digital literacy has contributed, I believe, to students' inability to tell the difference between truth and sham. So here's some strategies that you will typically find on many, many college websites. That when you land on a site, you should study it carefully. You should look for indicators, its aesthetics, it's whether it has banner ads, whether it has a contact address, whether it's been recently updated. Another thing, you should go to the About page. And rather than telling students that an About page is a cultivated vision of what an organization wants you to think, no different from somebody's Instagram feed, they often leave it as the information you find on the About page without any warning. And then probably most common is that you should give weight to a site's top-level domain, its URL. A .com is suspect, but a .org means that the organization is a nonprofit, and nonprofits work to advance the public good. This is something you find all over the web. And it is, let me just add, it's patently false. The domain of choice for groups that the Southern Poverty Law Center has labeled hate groups is, by the way, .org. But the bigger problem is this. What colleges are recommending is the opposite of what professionals do. Landing on an unknown site, the first thing that fact checkers at our nation's most esteemed publications do to learn about a site is, paradoxically, they leave it. They understand the web as a completely different way of reading than the print world. They understand it, as my colleague Mike Caulfield explains, is that on the web, the way to establish authority and truth online is to use the web's web-like properties. In other words, to leave a site and to turn to the broader network web to get a fix on an original site's reliability. Now students can be taught to do this. In a study that we did at San Jose State University, we were able to move the needle in as little as 150 minutes of instruction. At the University of North Texas, we just completed a study of asynchronous instruction in a nutrition course. You'll see on a pretest, this term that I've circled, lateral reading, which is our term for students going off a site and turning to the web. They barely used it on the pretest, less than 7%. There's close to 1,000% increase in the post-test, where one of the first things they do to assess a vitamin site is they go off and they turn to the broader web. We are in a post-Sputnik moment today. We are on the brink of defeating a deadly virus, but we haven't even begun to figure out how to defeat a virus that pollutes our information supply. So here are a few things that we can do. First, do no harm. We need to update our information. Here is Princeton's page that they use. They're using a 1998 article from the web's Paleolithic era in order to guide students what to do on the web. So we need to just first get our act together, and this we can do immediately. The second thing we need to do is to engage in curriculum development. We believe that it's educational malpractice to send undergraduates to the web without first providing systematic instruction. And then finally, we need a sober recognition by the university community that this, yes, we can regulate the platforms, and we can have little kind of disclaimers on false posts. But this is first and foremost an educational problem. The challenge of preparing students for coping with the digital age must be met by every member of the university community. Thank you.